Good morning and welcome to all those who showed up and those who are on Zoom. Welcome to the 2020 annual meeting. I'm Richard Tracek, President of the board at the present time. What we're going to see is some pictures on Facebook and some other community pictures throughout the presentation so that you know where they're coming from. The agenda, call to order, introduction will be me. Peggy will do the quorum, the minutes from last year, floor nominations, and I'll come back with a review of 2020. We'll recess, and that we're going to see how that all works out. This year, as you see, we don't have refreshments and the kind of a community 15 minutes to get things organized. We'll see how the counting goes and if we can get beyond that. Right after that, there'll be a financial review by Jarrett Tomoleski. The elections results will be Peggy again, and then we'll do volunteer recognition and open forum. The current board members for 2020 are Richard Tracek, me, Ed Nomal, Vice President, Jarrett Tomoleski, Treasurer, and Peggy McClurkin, Secretary. We also have Robert Adams, James Coates, Elizabeth Hare, Becca Hardgrave, Pat Majeski, Robert Middleton, and John Reedy. And I want to thank them for all their work they've done this past year. If we had a camera, we could go back and have them all stand up, but we can't do that. So they're here. On our team for administrative purposes, we have Mike Goodwin, who is here over on the side. And Shannon, Mary, Jill, and Deborah, if you have any office issues, you've certainly run into one of those folks in the past year. Our maintenance team, Buck Kearns, Richard Lewis, Mike Smith, Mike Clark, Carrie, Dylan, they take care of our grass cutting, maintenance in the common areas, snow removal, which I'm sure we're all going to hear shortly, how well they do or don't do on Facebook. With that, I'm going to have Peggy pick it up for a quorum.
Good morning. To certify a quorum, we're required to have 10% attendance of the membership, either here in person or by absentee ballot, and officially affirmed by our independent vote administrator, that the quorum has already been established and certified. Earlier this week, I sent out the entire full transcript of the minutes of last year's annual meeting. Right now, rather than read the entire transcript again, I'm going to read a summary of those minutes and then ask for membership approval. So this is the summary of the minutes of the 2019 annual meeting. President Tracek introduced himself and the rest of the board members and gave an overview of the annual meeting presentation and 10 candidates vying to fill 5 open seats on the board. Secretary McClurkin certified that a quorum was present and summarized the 2018 annual meeting minutes, which were then approved by the membership in attendance with a show of hands. Secretary McClurkin called for nominations from the floor, for which there were none, then introduced the 10 candidates vying for board vacancies. President Tracek introduced the GM, administrative, and maintenance staffs and summarized the tasks they are charged with. President Tracek gave highlights of the past year's accomplishments, and these included, but were not limited to, the demolition of the old office building, the opening of Country Club Park, development of new walking paths and biking trails, improvements to the boat storage area, plantings for beautification at our entrance, the hugely successful 4th of July fireworks and events, presentation efforts for our #1 asset, which is namely our lake, including actions to prevent dangerous algae growth and the addition of carp exclusionary zones and floating wetlands, The efforts of the Activities Committee to bring food trucks into the community, town hall meetings for the community involvement, the conversion of the LHCC-owned lots to common areas to reduce property and sanitary district taxes, and much, much more. Recognition and thanks were given to the numerous volunteers who serve on our committees for their hard work. Treasurer Tom Oleski presented an overview of the association's financial status, noting that the association was able to leave dues only slightly changed, and that the budget process made provisions for the funding of capital improvements and growing the assets and amenities in our community. So at this time, with a show of hands, I'm going to ask for approval of these minutes. All those in favor? Thank you. So we now declare the minutes of the 2019 annual meeting approved. We're now going to call for nominations from the floor, if there are any, and we will do a presentation. We'll do an overview of the qualifications. These candidates must be current on all their financial obligations. They must be in compliance with all rules, restrictions, and deeds. And they must have been members of the association for at least 1 year. They must be willing to serve, and their name must be written on the ballot. Are there at this time any nominations from the floor? Great. With no nominations from the floor, I'm going to introduce the 4 candidates for the 3 vacancies we have this year. And if they're present, please stand. Robert Adams, who is running for re-election. Daryl Melcher, Ed Noble, and Bill Quirk. Bill Quirk. Okay. And I think that's it. I'm going to turn it back over to Richard.
Thank you, Peggy. Every year I always get asked several times during the month, how many lots do we have? Are we really expanding? So this is an update that we present every year. We have 1,800 basically total lots. We have 958 homes, up 4 from last year. And if you've been around the community, you can see there's going to be a lot more for next year. We have 255 lots with utilities. And those are the lots that potentially can still be built upon. When you talk about build out scenario, that's it. 255 should do it. 643 lots without utilities for a total of the 1,856. So that's the current state of our lot situation. A year in review, 2020. As you can see, the clubhouse and offices and all the activities have basically been canceled because of the virus. One of the saddest things was the fitness center where Dr. Coates had worked so hard to bring all new equipment in, and then shortly thereafter we had to close it. There was a lot of reasons why, not only the sanitary issues, but the ventilation in that room just isn't satisfactory. So we are working on it. Many of the activities were canceled. The office was canceled. The beach finally opened up. But we were following the governor's guidelines to protect the safety of our community. We had some plantings this year. The ladies went out and did the clubhouse, the gatehouse, and the main entrance wall, trying to update a little bit. Those volunteers down on the left-hand corner are Karen Winterstein, Karen Garr, Carol Trasick, Marilyn Taylor, and Carol Demery. All worked on plants coming in at the gatehouse. And then over on the right-hand side, where you can see planting outside this facility, we got Carrie, Mike, and Dylan, and some of the pictures of their work during the summer. If you recall, last year, we had hundreds of large stumps, brought in a stump grinder, and his advice was not to give the mulch away for a year till the acidity dissipated from the pile. You can see it was a pretty substantial pile. So this year we decided to give it away. We had 125 loads at the first giveaway, and we did it again the second time for another 100 and some odd, 30 or 40 loads, and anything from a pickup truck to actually 5-gallon buckets. So there was a lot of interest in that. We did have some fun this year, even with the virus. The boat parade went on fairly well. We had a lot of contestants this year, and the one at the top is yours truly, which is, well, we got the Easter Bunny also. And there's the boat parade. We're at the top with the Vikings for my family. It was kind of fun. It was a fun event. So there are some fun things. Preserving our lake is the #1 issue that we have here all the time. We did some work with the floating wetlands. We also did some work with the carp exclusion areas. We tried new ones this year. As you know, the carp have eaten almost all the vegetation at the bottom of the lake, and we're trying to bring some of it back so that the fish habitat have a place to hide and so forth. So with that, we have also wanted to show you what some of the fish were. The one on the left, and I'm sorry I couldn't find that gal's name, but it was on Facebook. That's a bass. She caught it at Lake 2, at the Beach 2 off of the dock on chicken. So she did pretty well with that one. The one on the right is John, and he caught that by hand, actually, in the marina. That's a carp. So if you want to see what the carp look like and the size they are after 9 years or so, John Reedy grabbed that by hand. I don't know, it was struggling or something, he said, but he did actually better than the event I'm going to tell you next. Well, we tried to get rid of the carp. Jake's ran a carp program that brought in an organization that does this sort of thing. They have bows and arrows. They have a floating type of a dock scenario for a boat. A lot of bright lights. You've probably seen them in the community during that period of time. And they pretty much said what they do about, I don't know, 100 or so carp and an outing. There were 7 of them, I think, that showed up, or 7 or 8 of them. But what happened, it was a great idea. We went out and dug a hole. Mike, our general manager, dug a big hole in the back south side where the mulch pile was. We had the pickup truck and with the dump truck all lined up to carry these 200 fish over there and dump them because it would probably smell quite a bit. So it was a great idea, high expectations. And you see the little slide on the right where it shows the results. We got 9 fish. And John at the marina was at number 10. They blamed it on the weather and that sort of thing, but they said they're going to try and come back and do some work with that again later. The fireworks this year were beautiful as usual. We were fortunate a couple of years ago to find a pyrotech individual who was really good. Works with the Apple Blossom and a lot of professional showings, and I think it shows here. I hear nothing but praise every year about how great it is and keeps improving every year. Last year, we began replacing our heavy equipment, the tractors and mower decks. It became 12 years old and older. It began to start to fall apart. This year, we did the lawn mowers. There's a couple of those. We did the chainsaws, and we worked on a new power washer for cleaning the tables and the decks and that sort of thing. So we're continually moving along in that arena. I was really reluctant this year to hold town hall meetings for obvious reasons with the virus. Finally had one. There was so much concern about what the board had in the way of legality, where the sheriff fit in, where our security system fit in. So we had a meeting with the sheriff and all those involved, and everybody said it was one of the most interesting ones they've had. It told about what the board can actually do legally. and what our systems can do legally and what the sheriff needs to do legally. So I think that's still on Zoom, so if somebody needs it, they might be able to check the office and get clarification on issues that they still may have questions about. The next one is the lot in the common areas. This is kind of a long scenario. Back in 2019, 8A was kind of really just an area where it was never going to be developed. It was told to the people who bought lots back there that eventually it would be developed. But after Pat Majeski, who's worked on this at length, and myself looked at these things, it would have been millions and millions of dollars to put a system back in there, the water, the roads, the power, and so forth, and no interest from any of the contractors or developers in the area. So we decided to consolidate all that into a common area for future. We could use it for years from now after we've moved on and put whatever we thought at that particular time in that area. So 2019, we started a swap program where if anybody wanted to swap the lot that was in 8A for another lot in 6A or some of the others that might have more of a possibility of being developed later on, we offered that opportunity. Many of the folks in that area took it. Here again, Pat did a great job in making that happen. So most of the lot, there were still a couple that we couldn't find or passed on or whatever, that are still in 8A, but basically the whole area now is common area. And we have no lots left for resale. That was another issue. We had lots we were going to put in. If you recall, we used to sell lots, take lots back and all that scenario. I told the people that when they were turning their lots back in, when Pat first started this program, to hold the lots because they will be valuable down the road as there won't be any for sale by Lake Holiday. So sure enough, what's happened is there is a demand for both lots right now, and they are going up in value. And what does that mean? The property, the low property taxes, what we paid on those properties were property taxes to the county. We also paid sanitary district taxes to the county. And the savings as a result of this whole program was $40,000 this year in taxes and sanitary districts. And Jarrett was telling me last year was about 40,000 as well. So this is headed in the right direction of saving money for Lake Holiday. The 10-year master plan continues to take shape. The master planning committee went over it again this past month and updated the document. Some things that are still in progress is a dog park. We finished that up a couple months ago and planted grass. And we're waiting for the grass to take hold. We do have a small dog and a large dog park area. We are going to plan on putting some doggy things in the park. And again, the general manager is working on some things we'll make over the winter. We're also looking for some volunteers if they want to make some different dog things in the park. I'm not sure what they are. But anyway, the next thing we're working on, making progress in, is the site plan review for Beach 2. As you know, Beach 1 is becoming crowded, particularly on weekends in the summer. And people are more and more going to Beach 2, which has an erosion problem. The sand that was migrating was going to the neighbors and filling up the cove. And we decided that we would need to take some steps both to improve the area and improve the beach. So the first step is going to be, it's been divided into 2 phases. The first one is just going to be actually to improve the beach, widen it, improve the drainage so it doesn't take all the sand and put it into the lake. And also the parking will be improved along with erosion control. And then there's a part 2 to it, which would be over on the other side where the campers are. And we're not sure when we're going to start that. That'll be a bit more expensive and a little bit more complicated. The plan right now is in the hands of the county and Greenway. Hopefully we'll have most of that finished next summer. All right, this is the break time. The polls are closing, so this is the last chance to vote. If anybody would like to vote, they can do that now. We'll take about a 2-minute break, see if anybody goes. If not, then Jared will do the treasurer's report and we'll move on. In the meantime, Peggy will check and see if the vote count is complete. So back up about 2 minutes. Okay, we're going to call the meeting back to order. Everybody take their seats, please. Next item on the agenda is Jared Tomlinski to give the financial reports for the year. Jared?
Knees hurt, so sorry, Ed, I won't complain to you. All right, fiscal year 2020, it went by very quickly. Fortunately, we haven't had a lot of major issues to deal with this year, but still we've had a very successful year. I'd like to start out by thanking our Finance Committee for their hard work and dedication. Many of the members of the Finance Committee have been on this committee for quite some time, and their work is imperative to the success of our community. Countless hours of hard work and dedication. As Richard had mentioned earlier, the work that Pat has done with reducing our tax liability to the county for real estate has been a tremendous asset to us. Butch, working on reducing our long-term debt. Tom and John for their hard work on the budget and replacement reserves, and the entire committee for what we've done with the capital improvement plan and doing as far as prudent judgment and executing with all the site plans and getting these things accomplished. So greatly appreciate all the efforts of our Finance Committee. Thank you very much. 2020 accomplishments, Decker and Company. They are our new external auditor that just started for us this year. They have completed our financial audit for our 2019 financials. No material issues have been found, and our taxes will be or have been already filed. At this time, we have no tax liability to the federal government. Replacement reserve has been revised or reviewed and updated. Thanks to John for keeping up with that. And our long-term debt has been reduced significantly, which is great for the community to get rid of that burden. And our fiscal year 21 budget has been completed and approved by the board. Here we see what our finances look like so far through August of this year. And you will notice the budgeted numbers to actual. Every month we have come in under budget. That is a tremendous job, and that's all due to our GM and our office staff. They do excellent work. We are so fortunate to have all of them. I don't think we appreciate them enough for what they do for us. So thank you to the team. Here's just a simple pie chart breakdown of where our money was spent over the past year. It's more just for looks than, won't go into detail on any slices of the pie at this time. Our balance sheet has never looked better. And this is a testament to the Finance Committee. We started in January of 2020, we had $414,000 in long-term debt. We are gonna finish this year at roughly $105,000 in long-term debt, and more than likely, we'll be able to pay off all of our long-term debt in this coming year. And to put this in perspective, you see we have a little over $3.5 million in liquid assets and 100 and some thousand long-term debt. Going back to 2015, we had $1 million in long-term debt and under $2 million in liquid assets. So we've come a long way in 5 years. We are on strong financial footing. And in addition to that, we've got our sanitary district tax, which was a state infrastructure bond issued in 2011 to fix our spillway. Everybody knows that we pay the county twice a year, $600 and some per homeowner. That's a 20-year bond set to mature in 2031. Well, we spent less than we thought we were going to on the spillway project, and the county has actually collected more. And they hold these funds in an escrow account that aren't paid as interest to the bondholders. So there is a very high probability that this bond, there's 2 separate bonds, will be paid off several years early. It's too early to speculate. The first bond is callable in 2021. I won't get into the boring specifics of municipal bonds, but that will be a great help to the value of our homes once we can get rid of that tax burden on all of our homes. And then we can go to next year's budget, which looks very similar to this year's budget. Actually, total operating expenses are going to be down slightly from 2020, which is excellent news. And that will bring us to what our assessments are going to be for the coming year, virtually unchanged, which is great news. We're still going to be able to fund our capital improvement projects, potentially extinguish all of our long-term debt, and keep dues at the same level as the previous year. Homeowners are going to see about a 53-cent increase. Not bad considering all that we have to do in this community. So it's been a great year and we're on strong financial footing. So hopefully we can keep this good work going in the years to come. Thank you very much. Any questions I should ask? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. The next thing will be the election results, and Peggy will give them. One thing I would like to do before I forget, for the dog and pony show that we're seeing, John Martell did an awful lot of work in this, and there's an awful lot of credit. He's been with me throughout the year. That was a great job. Peggy, the results.
Okay, we had a total of 251 vote envelopes submitted. 240 of these were from absentee ballots in advance, and only 12 today in person at the meeting, but that's okay. So it's a total of 251. Of the 4 candidates, I'm going to read the results in descending order. First, with 180 votes, is Ed Noble. With 178 votes is Daryl Melcher. With 170 votes is Robert Adams. And with 154 votes is Bill Quirk. So Ed Noble, Daryl Melcher, and Robert Adams are our new board members, and congratulations to them and welcome aboard, and with the returning members also.
Running this organization takes volunteers. We need them to support the board, bring the information, broaden our knowledge base so that we can make good decisions. Volunteer recognition is an important part. First, we have the master plans headed up by Pat Majeski. And the list of members is on the left-hand side. We've done the lot swaps we talked about earlier, updated the capital improvement plan, revised the 2020 master plan, and did the dog park. There's a few of the things that were accomplished this year from that group. Great job. Next one, we have the lake committee. And it'll take a bit to scroll down through the membership. Basically, it's headed by Chris Anderson, who is our audio visual expert for today. And it continues to support the lake and lake activities with weekly coli testing, the erosion and sediment control. We talked about fish habitat, installing floating wetlands, doing the carp exclusion. So there were a lot of things this group has been busy doing this year as well. It's one of our biggest clubs, committees rather. Activities committee was busy this year again. Lisa Cox chaired that with volunteers on the list on the left. The fireworks, community sales, 4th of July, a lot of the things had to be canceled or postponed as a result of the virus, but we still had a lot of activities. And the food trucks, of course, have been really popular. The tech team worked mostly on the website this year, so that you have fillable forms. If you go on the web, you can fill out forms for architectural, for example, or some other issues that you need. And a property ownership directory, what they worked on this year. Building and grounds, another active group headed up by Alex Perka. They too worked on the Country Club Park, walking trails, which we're going to be adding to in this next year or two. We're working on that as we speak. Expansion of the boat storage area was completed. The site plans for Beach 1 and 2 we talked about earlier with the sports field and the dog park. So again, very active. You need to get involved if you want to see things happen. The compliance group, they take care of matters of compliance, which could be anything from owner issues to speeding to whatever. That's headed up by Dot Wallace with her crew. Nominating committee this year did a good job, headed up by Mike Bradshaw and his wife, co-chaired it with Drew Meyer, Demery Anderson on that, Becca following up with the board. The recruiting candidates, they conducted and held the meetings, the forums that we saw, an effort to try and get some more folks interested in the board. Architectural, which I'm part of, is headed up by Ted Cost and Ed Noble. A lot of inspections, as you can see, with the trees. A lot of the trees seem to be dying as we speak, and it's been quite, every time we go out, how many, 10 or 20 trees seem to be okay to cut down or just plain dead. The other thing that's interesting is the sales of houses. Each time we've gone out, or the times I've gone out, there's always 4 or 5 for resale. And the turnover on houses has been really steady. Most of them in the $250,000 range if you've been following it on, and it's almost like a week or two. My neighbor sold his in 2 days. So the housing market here is really hot. Safety Advisory Committee, headed up by Daryl, a new board member, and co-chaired by Kathy. Did a lot of work with emergency kits and traffic flowing during the 4th of July. Well, one thing, they told me there'll be no more speed bumps and no more stop signs, at least for next year. So everybody can rest easy without. But we are working on speed control. Obviously, it's an issue we still have here. So that's also being done. All right, with that, we vacation where you live. I trust everybody enjoys living a Lake Holiday. I sure do. And the next part of the program is open forum, where you can ask questions. Now, this is going to be a little bit hard on the Zoomers. We have about 30 or 40 on Zoom. So if they want to ask something, Chris may be able to handle it, and maybe we take a couple of them. We'll see how it goes. This is kind of new for us. What I also thought of for upcoming meetings too is do something outside. We did buy a new projector system for the beach to have the teens and the kids watch movies on the beach. Maybe able to use that on both ends of the building on the outside so people can pull up a chair and perhaps see these meetings on the outside without coming in. long-term with this virus, we just don't know what's going on. So anyway, with the open forum, we don't have a mic, but you can holler out and we'll see what we can do. Identify yourself by your name and the lot and limit the comments to 3 minutes. If I don't have an answer, we'll get an answer for you. So with that, is there any questions or anything anybody would like to ask at the forum? Yes.
Anthony Morelli, good morning, everybody. Jared, popped into my head when you mentioned about the, I believe you said one of the bonds would mature in 2021?
That is correct. That's the first date that it would be callable in November of 2021.
Does that have, do you know if that has any impact on what the homeowners will pay? Like, or do we continue to pay that same amount until the very end?
We would continue to pay the same amount until the very end, but by paying off the bond that's callable in 2021, we would save future interest expense to the bondholders. So that would, in essence, shorten the duration of when it would be paid off. The county currently holds, I believe it's $3.3 million in escrow. I'm not entirely sure what the outstanding principal balance is. I think it's around $6 million. So with the county collecting close to $1 million a year, it's hopefully, I don't want to give any false information, but it's a good chance within the next 4 years we could eliminate that tax burden for everybody.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Good, a Zoom question. Will all the board meetings be on Zoom from now on?
The question is, will all board meetings be on Zoom from now on? I think that would probably be a decision that the new board will make in the coming months, possibly. I mean, I've been asked about that on numerous occasions, but we'll address that at the new board meeting, when the new board takes their seats. What's the next one?
That's all.
That's it? Okay, any more questions from the folks that are here? If there's no more questions, I thank you all for coming, participating. Hope you enjoyed the last hour. We adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.